we're going to talk about three related ideas, but ideas that are important to separate and to distinguish among. And we'll approach them in a number of different ways. So mediation, moderation, and third variables. With mediation, we're saying that two variables are related because of a third variable, and A leads to C, which leads to B. So, for example, viewing violent TV causes children to become desensitized to violence and leads to aggressive behavior. That's mediation. Moderation is when we're talking about two groups that respond differently to or in a single relationship. So A and B are related, but for one level of the variable and not the other. So you remember with teen texting that girls responded differently than boys. So here we're seeing there is a low and not significant relationship between violent TV and aggressive behavior when parents discuss TV content with their children. But when they don't, there is a significant and fairly large relationship between the two variables. So whether or not parents discuss it is a moderating variable. Here with the third variable, we're saying that these two variables are connected, but only because they're linked to a third variable. So it's actually variable C that causes A and B. So for example, having lenient parents cause you to both view violent TV and behave aggressively. And that's one of the difficulties with correlations, that it's hard for us to distinguish whether there is a third variable. To some degree, multiple regression helps to exclude some of those third variables, helps us to recognize and exclude those variables. So let's talk about these more. With mediation, we propose a causal mechanism for a bivariate relationship. So we're asking, why are these two variables correlated? We are describing a time sequence for the three variables. And so that suggests that there is a temporal precedence. And it specifies the mechanism for this change. So mediators are the mechanism or the middle, as a result of this, we're seeing this relationship, but only because of this. Third variables are a nuisance. They're this outside reason for the original relationship, and researchers who find this confounding third variable are often disappointed with finding this. Again, mediators are the mechanism, where moderators are the factor or the variable that changes the relationship between the two variables, as we have seen with attendance at Phoenix and Pittsburgh baseball games. Mediators ask why. Moderators ask for whom or when. So, moderators are saying, what kinds of cities are we seeing a relationship between attendance and wins? Okay, where mediators say, what's going on here? A third variable, remember, is our nuisance variable, such as education, which is causing both deep talk and well-being. Moderators are interesting. It means that your correlation's there in one group, but not the other. So if we're thinking about mediators versus third variables, both involve multivariate research designs. So we're looking at least 3 variables, and both can be detected with multiple regression. However, third variables are external to the bivariate correlation, and they're problematic. Mediators are internal. So they're providing the mechanism, they're explaining why. And so they're not problematic. So let's think about why dog people live longer. And, think about both, or about mediating variables, moderating variables, and third variables. And you'll find another example of this, or a different example in the PowerPoint. So dog people might live longer because people with fewer health problems are more able to have dogs. And therefore they live longer because they don't, because they're healthier. It's not a very exciting finding, right? This is a third variable explanation. Having a dog is associated with a longer lifespan, but especially among people living alone. The relationship is weaker among people who live with others. So we're saying it's this way for people who live alone, and it's this way if you live with others. Okay? And our third is having a dog is associated with a longer lifespan because people who have dogs get more exercise, and exercise makes them healthier and live longer. Remember, that asks the why, right? And that's a mediator. With number 2, we're saying who or when does this happen? And that's why it's a moderator. Okay. This is the end of the videos for chapter 9, and I'll see you in chapter 10 as we begin talking about experiments. And take care. Bye-bye.